Hello, everyone. My name is JD Calderon, and this is Indy Comics Explained. And yet again, I brought another fantastic guest. But first, please hit like, hit subscribe, share out the video, let everybody know we're here. And one more time, for those of you who don't know, go check out the Oswald Chronicles, currently on Kickstarter. So you can go check that out. These are the two books that are being offered. So go check it out at your leisure. It's in the show notes. And without further ado, our guest, Mr. Tristan Vick. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How about yourself?
Good. I'm good. I'm good. All right, Tristan. Let's get right into it.
Sure.
So, I always ask this question of everybody. It's one of these questions I know a lot of people ask. But I like this question. It's
Okay.
Little Tristan, long time ago, right? Running around reading comics. Now, I don't necessarily want to know what your first comic is,
Yeah.
but I would like to know what's the first comic that ever got you interested in creating comics.
That's a hard question. That's not an easy question. Calvin and Hobbes. That'd probably be the first comic strip series that I was into comics way before Calvin and Hobbes. Calvin and Hobbes is what got me into the storytelling aspect of comics, got me invested in the storytelling of a comic character,
Right.
of a cartoon character. And I became addicted to Calvin and Hobbes all through elementary school and middle school. So I think that would probably be it. It's probably sparked. It's what put the image and the word and the story all together in my mind for me. Before it was just like throwaway entertainment, just something to read. When my parents divorced when I was 5 years old, my father lived like 4 hours away. And so on weekends, we'd have to commute back and forth. And he would just buy us comics and give us comics for the long car ride. He'd buy us like 3 or 4 comics, my brother and I. And yeah, we would just read comics. And so like I started out with Iron Man early on, and because I thought the armor was cool, so I always bought those off the rack, right?
Right.
And little did I know I was actually reading the Armor Wars storyline. So that's what I started on. Yeah, and then as I went, it was, but actually Calvin and Hobbes, I'd have to say, is the answer to that question.
All right, cool. Just wanted to say hello, Pops. What's up, Pops? He's a regular supporter of the show. He's a good guy.
Great.
Yep. So all right, cool. That's very nice. So, you're obviously doing comics today. It looks very successfully, which is awesome. Now, when you sit down and write your stories, right? Because you're working with artists, you're the writer. So how do you what's your process? Are you like a full blown plot outline script type of guy, or are you like a Marvel style where you give a loose outline, present that to the artist, and then come back a script in later? How are you working that?
I have to do full scripts, mainly because a lot of the artists I work with, English isn't their first language. So if you use the Marvel style, you're going to have too many miscommunications, and in the editorial process, you're going to have to redo lots of things, and you're wasting everybody's time, and you're losing money. So I use the full script because a lot of I work with artists out of Thailand, Singapore, Philippines, all over Germany, all over the world. So yeah, I have to use full script just for the convenience of allowing a non-native speaker to be able to understand what every scene needs in it. Also, I come from a novelist background. I've been a professional novelist since 2014.
Nice.
When Permuted Press bought my zombie series from me and published my novel series. So I've been publishing novels since 2014, and so I'm used to prose writing, and so like the Marvel style is just too simplistic for me, and it's harder to time your beats. If you what I like about full script style, or the DC, more like the DC comic style writing, although I use a variant version of it, I like how you can break it down much better when you have everything laid out, in terms of plotting, but also pacing. And the Marvel style doesn't really let you do that very well. And if your pacing is important to the storytelling, you're relying too much on the artist with the Marvel way to be able to do that. Now, if you're have really great communication with your artist and they can just practically read your mind, it's a good way to go because it's quicker.
Right.
It's quicker. It lets you do more turnaround. But yeah, I can't myself. It's not for me. I like to have more control over the structure of the story because I'm trying things that aren't traditional, and I need to have that extra layer of planning. Yeah.
Right. No, that's cool. That's cool. Completely understandable. Now, how do you find the differences between writing prose and comics? I write prose and comics as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know there's a huge difference. So I mean, how are you working through that?
Both come naturally to me. I don't. I do with my prose writing. I tend to do a lot more free writing. Like I'll do a loose outline, like beginning, middle, end, basically, and maybe some key scenes or key beats that I need to have at certain chapters. But it'll be like just a skeleton outline for my prose writing, and then I like to just free verse and just fill up the pages. With the comic book stuff, I tend to plan a little more meticulously because badly written comics just are very difficult to get into the story. And I always think of the early Image comics. Wonderful art on most of those titles, but the storytelling on almost all of them was abysmal.
Niobe agrees.
Great concepts, great ideas, great character design, amazing art, but the storytelling just fell apart. And I think one of the reasons was because they were handing the reins to artists to try and carry the story, but they weren't trained writers. They didn't know how to structure a story. They didn't know how to carry it. They didn't know all the tricks of the trade. So a lot of them just fizzled out, and they didn't finish their series, or they went on to other projects. And yeah, so I think if you take the time to write a really well-structured comic book story arc, that more readers can get into it. And then it also delivers on the promise of having an ending, because if the writer knows what they're doing, they've already, looked ahead far enough to think about that ending and how it all ties together. And if you don't plan that out and you're just writing left, right, every which way, it's not ever going to come together.
No, not without a real heavy edit.
Yeah.
So, all right, that's interesting. Now, do you consider yourself? Are you a plotter or a pantser?
Well, I'm a mix. I would say I tend to do a rough outline and have my beginning, middle, end, just like when I write my novels. But with comic books, I tend to plot a little more heavily. So I'll think of each beat, and I'll think of what, like, the inciting incident, what the revelation of the character is. I'll think about like what the climax will be. I'll think about what the reversal is. I'll think about the cliffhanger. So like I'll think about more of the parts of each beat. And once I have the outline in each section of each beat thought and jotted down, then I'll just pants between each segment, basically. Right. But because it's broken into 4 small parts, it's easier to do, and it's more planned out. And if there's a little bit more specific stuff going on in the story, I'll tend to take more time with it. Like with Daughter of Wolves, it's a 64-page comic. So it's much longer than your traditional comic in terms of each single issue. And I did that on purpose to give it a more epic feel, because I wanted it to be like Little Red Riding Hood meets Lord of the Rings. I wanted to take a fable and just blow it out into the most epic proportions. And in order to do that, you have to have a slow rolling start, and you have to introduce lots of different tertiary characters, because nobody knows your universe yet. And yet you have to keep it exciting. So you have to mix in humor and like action sequences, and I like to start it in media res, because just like Star Wars or any other movie that starts, you get right into the action, and then you can always do a flashback later and bring everybody up to speed, or do a 0 issue. I did a
Right.
0 issue with Daughter of Wolves to kind of fill in the gap of what's happening in the storyline, even though you can follow it perfectly well, it just kind of helps kind of give a little bit of backstory to what set up all these events. And so, yeah, that's how I tend to do it.
All right, cool. Now, so, and I mean, you work the same system. Well, you just said you work the same system with your novels. Have you ever translated one of your prose works into a comic book, or maybe even reversed, or even in the opposite direction?
I adapted my very first novel, The Scarecrow and Lady Kingston, which is a supernatural noir pulpy novel about a scarecrow that comes to life and joins the LAPD and becomes a detective, and he has a Spitfire female detective partner, and she's like on the verge of just having a mental break because of the stress of the job, and it's a lot of comedy. And yeah, I did adapt it into a comic, or at least a script. And I had pages started on it, and like halfway through I just decided to can it because it just wasn't to the level or the quality that I had hoped for. And the artist had other things come up, and I was like, well, it's just not gonna get finished anyway, so maybe I'll just put it on hold. And it became put on hold indefinitely. But I did attempt it. It's much harder to do a good adaptation because novels are just really dense, and just like a screenplay or a comic script, that you have to space things out more. And yeah, but I just thought it wasn't working, so I never came out with it. And that was like 10 years ago. That would have been my first project, but then I waited another 10 years for the right time to publish. So
all right, cool. Now, you're working with some very, very talented artists now. Now, what was your process in one, finding them and even vetting them? Like, what was your process for that?
Oh yeah, I have a very specific process. I'm working with Daughter of Wolves. I have Vaughn Randall, and Omi Remalante. They're both Philippine artists. What I did was I wanted to run my first Kickstarter in 2020. So in 2019, when COVID was going on, I just was at home a lot because I was in Japan. I was a school teacher, and when COVID hit, everybody had to stay home, and so I just started studying Kickstarters and just familiarizing myself with it. And at the same time I was doing that, I was finding artists and adding artist friends to Facebook and my Twitter and all my social media. And I was just following a bunch of artist guys and finding people that I thought were talented enough to carry the project. And what I would do very specifically is look at their different social medias and see if they updated at least more than once a month, because that means they're actively drawing or they're actively coloring or doing their art. And as long as they're making art, I know that they'll have a larger improvement over people who post periodically or aren't even working or haven't done anything for a while. They might be rusty. So I wanted guys that were actively working. And the other thing I wanted was to see if they'd done anything to completion. Like, had they done a full book? Had they worked on a full project? Because if they haven't, those type of artists tend to get really excited about a project, but they burn out really quickly and they might flake on you because they're just not used to the workload.
Right.
So I wanted to know if these guys, first of all, are producing art, if they're keeping their skill level up, and if they're able to handle the workload. And then once I found the guys that met those requirements, and also my artistic tastes, like if they met what I had in mind for the book, the style of art I wanted for the book, then I would email them. And so, like, I asked, Vaughn was my first choice for Daughter of Wolves, but for my other project, I asked for Alicia Carter and Robot. I asked like 3 or 4 different artists before the project began, and they all turned me down. But then I found another guy that I really love his style, so Chris Iwayan. So he's got a really great like cartoony style, almost an animated style. So yeah. So like yeah, and then so that's my process. I stick to that process because I've had artists before where I also another project I tried to do is I did a short story that I wanted to adapt into a comic, and I hired a French artist, and his art was amazing. But when he was done with the project, I asked for like some changes, and he was like already on to another project and make those changes. And so when you work with some talented guys, sometimes you're like, well, the book isn't working, and they're off doing their own thing again. So another thing I had to do was make sure the artist would be willing to stay on the project or finish the project or make changes when I needed to have them made. And even if they were doing something else, like congrats to Vaughn, he just got picked up by Image Comics. So
oh, nice.
And I mean that's a big thing. So I don't know what he's doing, but it's going to be great whatever he's doing, because his work in Daughter of Wolves is amazing. So yeah.
Nice. I mean, okay. So I mean, so is he got picked up on one of their mainline titles, like Spawn or something like that, or is it like he had a book that he's working with?
It's all hush hush.
Oh, hush hush. Oh God. Okay, there you go. Well, I mean, good for him.
Well, no matter what they give him, he's gonna blow them out of the water, and they're gonna give him more and more and more. So, and then Omi's been working pretty steadily for lots of different smaller publishers like Zenoscope, IDW, like just a bunch of them. And I think his most famous books, he's done Savage Red Sonja,
nice,
and he's done Vampirella as the main colorists on those books. So yeah, he's been, and he's done some Ninja Turtle covers too, I'm pretty sure. So he's been in the industry for a little while now. And I just lucked out with him because like when I started the project back in 2019, he was just getting his professional gigs about the same time. So he was still like not very well known yet, and he had a lot of free time, or he didn't have as many projects, I should say, coming his way. So I was like, would you be willing to work on this? And he graciously said yes. So yeah, I'm very happy because his colors are amazing.
Nice. So I mean, it's probably, maybe, I don't know if it's premature. I mean, so Vaughn is going to be working over at Image. How do you replace somebody like that?
I don't. I'll put the book on hold because his design sense, like nobody's gonna. If you look at what the book is, it's a rice punk or a silk punk, as they say. So it's a blend of like Eastern aesthetic and style, like Japanese kimonos and the architecture, but with Western stuff as well. And it has like a steampunk-esque element to it, and it's a fantasy universe. And his design sense is so phenomenal that I haven't found anyone that could match it yet. I just got lucky and scouted him before anybody else got him. So what I will do is if he gets too busy, I'll just give him a few pages here and there, and it'll just take longer to finish the book. But I'll keep him on it. I hate changing art teams mid-story.
Yeah, I mean, it is rough. Yeah,
and to me, it's better to wait. Just like with Warren Ellis and
was it Planetary?
Planetary, yeah, I couldn't think of the title, but I have it on my shelf. So
was it John Cassidy?
Yeah, John Cassidy, and that went 24 years it took them to finish that title, but
exactly, yeah,
perfect. It's perfect. So I'd follow in their footsteps.
Yeah, no, I got you. I was a big fan of the series, and yeah, it took forever. And I remember towards the end, he was like, "John's had the script for a year, I swear."
Yeah.
That was boring. It was just like, he's had it for a year because he got a lot of, because it took him 2 or 3 years to write the script.
Yeah,
I guess, and then he finally turned it over to John Cassidy, and then John was like, "Well, I got other projects." And
that's one of the first. Well, it's not a parody; it's a pastiche because it doesn't make fun of the Fantastic Four, but it emulates the storytelling style of the early Fantastic Four stories, but updates them into. So I really loved it. It's a great series.
Yeah, I love Planetary too. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's just like, oh, this is interesting. You know, very very interesting. That what he was doing, what he was attempting to do, and covering all
Yeah.
the different genres and all that stuff. So it's
Mhm.
really nice. So you lived in Japan for a while,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
so I mean, so you're doing comics here. Obviously, you were in Japan, which is like obviously home of a huge culture in illustrated fiction in manga,
Yeah.
right? Did you ever get involved in that culture over there in that in like manga?
Oh no. Um, I know some manga artists personally, and I know a couple editors, but personally I would avoid getting into that just because they have a different work ethic, and it's like work till you die. That's and it's every day, and it's like eat ramen noodles at your chair, at your desk, never leave your desk, have chronic back pain for the rest of your life because this is it. And they just dedicate themselves so hardcore to making those books, even if they're not like A-list manga artists. They're just workaholics, and I just knew I couldn't handle it. I would burn out in the first week. It's just not something I could do. But yeah, I have some friends, and yeah, and I do like manga a lot. I mean, that's what, like, after I went to college, and I switched from graphic design to English Lit because the graphic design program where I was going was not that great, and I wasn't getting anything out of it. So I switched to English Lit because I was like, well, I'm gonna focus on storytelling. If I can't do the art, I'll learn the art in my free time, and then because I taught myself how to draw, and I'm gonna write, and then of course over the years I just stopped drawing and focused on the storytelling and the writing. So but yeah, that's just coming along that trajectory. It when I went to Japan, I was just thinking of just writing novels for the rest of my life. But then I got back into the manga scene, and I was like, well, this is great. This is what I want to do. I don't just want to write novels. I want to do comic books. So yeah, in 2019, like I said, COVID hit hard, and then I was like, I'm going to get a sizable tax return, and I'm going to put all that money into making my first comic, and
Nice.
that's what I did. So that was Daughter of Wolves 1, and it was a smash success. It performed way better than I thought it would, and then I think it made 19,000 on the Kickstarter alone. But after that, I made makeup sales. I didn't use Backer Kit, but I used a similar service, and then I got some additional sales, and it ended up making over 20 grand. And then I launched my second book. Well, okay, so Daughter of Wolves, I one of the things I think I did well was I offered like limited edition covers that you could only get on the Kickstarter, like the foil covers and whatnot. And then I printed it on super high gloss paper,
Nice.
and so the quality is just a little bit better than what you get on your regular monthly comic. And then same with Alicia Carter. I launched this right after Daughter of Wolves, and it's about a robot and basically a cat thief or a thief who steals the robot,
Right.
reprograms him, and makes him her sidekick, and then she goes on these wild adventures throughout space. So it's a space comedy, and that made over 21 grand, and I was like, what is going on here, So yeah, I was really surprised. And first issues always do much better because you have a huge drop off on the. I think Daughter of Wolves 2. I got to check where it's at. Just a second. It's at 10,000, or just over 10,000. So it's doing well. I consider that good for a second issue. I hope if there's 16 days left on it, so definitely go. And you can get Daughter of Wolves 1 if you jump on the campaign now. And I'm also putting Alicia Carter on there, so people who might have missed that. But yeah, I'm having great success running Kickstarters, and I told myself if I can make like actual income off this, I'm going to do it permanently.
Gotcha. No, that's awesome. So I mean, all right. Because here's the thing. I'm going to ask you a couple more questions about your package. It just fascinates that. Yeah, it
Oh
just
yeah.
fascinates you that you spent that much time with it. Did you ever go to Comic-Con?
Nope.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, because like I was saying, I didn't get back into manga until just relatively recently, like
Oh, okay.
2018-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the time I was really into it again, yeah, COVID had hit, so everything closed down.
Right. Gotcha.
So yeah, but yeah, I was in Japan for 17 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I have 3 children with a Japanese woman. She's my ex-wife. But yeah, we were married for four, 14 of those 17 years. So
Nice. Okay. Cool. I mean, I'm sorry to hear that things didn't work out.
well, yeah,
Oh,
that's just it was just the right time. It was just the right time. We just both went our separate ways. It was pretty amicable, actually.
mhm.
Uh,
Oh, okay.
it wasn't like a fight or a cheating scenario. It was just like, we've done what we want, but we want different things now. So we just kind of
Mm.
parted the ways.
All right. Cool. Now,
Yeah.
we'll go back a little bit to process. Now, what's from prose to comics? What were your biggest challenges going from prose to comics? Like, what did you think was that big hump that you had to get over?
I think it was actually the other way around for me.
Mm.
I found writing comics much easier
Mhm.
than writing prose. Like with prose, once you write it, it's not done. You have to edit it, re-edit it,
Mhm.
send it to your editor, your comprehensive editor, your comp editor. You get it back. You send it to your line editor. You get it back. You send it to your like a friend who's going to give it one more proofread. Send
Mhm.
it to your mother. You know, like,
Right.
like
Yep.
the novel is almost never done. You just keep working on it and fine tuning it. With the comic script style, I found I could be very precise, both in my descriptions, which are relatively short,
Mhm.
what each panel entails, what each page entails, and then with what the dialogue is. And you can hone the dialogue very tightly as compared to a novel, which you have to make dialogue sound natural, but it has to fit the story of a prose novel.
Right.
So you can have stylistic things. Whereas with comics, you just write in your regular everyday voice because that's how people talk and that's what people want to read. You know, they don't want to read old Shakespearean English when they're reading a comic book. Well, some comic. I mean, if you're doing an artsy fartsy thing, yeah. But but if
Go,
you're
go
writing,
go read Sandman.
yeah. But if you're just doing a monthly, or if you're just doing it for pulp entertainment reasons and not necessarily to make an artistic statement, if you're just having fun making comics, then you don't want to make it too inaccessible to your readers. So yeah, like just and then just writing in regular everyday vernacular just speeds things up so much more. So for me, it was going to the script style was just much easier. I didn't feel that there were any hurdles. I already knew the style of writing just because I've read comics my whole life. So it was, and I've read books on writing, and I'm an English lit graduate. So I mean, that's those things benefit you. But in terms of just if you read the comics, you basically know the structure and how it's set up. So yeah, but I think more goes into prose writing.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
that's the more difficult thing for me.
Nice. All right. So tell me a little bit about Alicia Carter. I mean, what's the genesis of that?
So Marcel Dupree publishes a lot of great books. I like his stuff a lot. Like I just have Black Coffin sitting off to the side here. That's one of his latest books,
Mhm.
and he's got good titles. Anyway, he had put a call out for some. He had made an anthology series called Faster Than Light or Speed of Light,
Mhm.
and it's just an anthology of sci-fi stories. And so I pitched him a sci-fi story, and he said yes, he wanted it.
Mhm.
And so that was like my first comic book public any comic book writing that I did. and it appeared in issue 1 of that. And then I said, oh, this was really fun. I want to do another one. Can I write for issue 2? And he says, well, issue 2's already been made because it's going to the printer right now, but I'll get you an issue 3. And so I wrote Alicia Carter and Robot. I wrote a short story about this girl who crash lands on a junk world and has amnesia. And it's just a planet where all the other planets send their garbage. And so the robots have to take them to the incinerators, and they're just work bots and whatnot. And so she's trying to remember who she is. And then bounty hunters come down and they're hunting her, and she doesn't know why. And so there's a cat and mouse game happening. And then she hotwires the robot to help her and all this stuff. And then, gets off the planet. And that's the exciting ending, is that she leaves the bounty hunters and they're chasing her through this next issue. So I had written that as a much shorter treatment for Speed of Light 3, but then the books didn't sell overly well, so he canned the series after 2. And then I had this story sitting around, and I kind of liked it. I was like, maybe if I flesh this out more and make the bounty hunters have characters, like make them into actual characters and not just generic bad guys chasing her. But she's actually the bad guy because she's the thief, right? So like, how do I spin this and make it more comical and all that? So I took a few months off and rewrote the treatment, and then I was like, this is too good to give to anybody. Like, I want to make this myself. So I ended up, after Daughter of Wolves 1 did so phenomenally well, I had extra money to make Alicia Carter, and I was like, well, I hope people like it, and then of course it beat out what Daughter of Wolves did, and I was just like, whoa, what's going on? So I think people like the concepts, that even though they hadn't read the stories yet, they're supporting me. I think they like the art styles the artists I'm teaming up with. I think they like the concepts and the design work. So there's a lot there to like, and I hope they enjoy the stories when they get them.
Well, yeah, that's always a plus.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. So currently you have Daughter of Wolves number 2 running.
Yeah.
Right. So why don't we tell me a little bit about Daughter of Wolves?
Yeah. So like I said earlier, the kernel, or I guess the thing that I based it on very, very roughly was Little Red Riding Hood. I just wanted a little girl and wolves somehow, but it's such an overdone trope. And so I'm like, well, it'll be tropey, but let me do it in a way nobody's ever thought of it before. Let me spin it out into an epic. Instead of big bad wolves in the woods, just like wolves, let's make them werewolves. And I know Zenescope did that with their Little Red Riding Hood, their Red Riding Hood series. They made the wolves into werewolves, but it was different because it was like a witch time traveling and all this stuff. So their story was much different. And I was like, well, I don't want to do it. I want to do it as a fantasy, like a steampunk fantasy.
Right.
And so I worked with Von Randall on it, and he did this amazing art. And when he showed me the sample, like the character design pages, I was like, okay, she's gonna be a monster hunter. She's gonna hunt werewolves and vampires, and they're all gonna exist in this universe, which is gonna be like a vague medieval Europe, but with a lot more Asian influence in fusion. So like the timeline's a different timeline, but things, and she has like a robotic hand, because in the storyline, if you read issue 1, she gets bit by the big bad werewolf, and she loses her arm. And in the process, and this is, I guess, spoiler alert, but it's in the blurb of the book anyway. So she turns into a werewolf herself. So I was like, oh, this kind of has like a Blade feel. He's a vampire hunter. He's a vampire himself, but he hunts vampires. And so she's a werewolf herself, but because they killed her family and they took her arm, she's getting vengeance on all the monsters in her mind. So she becomes like this elite monster hunter. And then in issue 1, she just assembles her team because there's a rogue pack of werewolves that she has to track down. And she has a squire, Jonathan, is her squire, and he's learning to become a hunter. And then she finds a barbarian woman for hire and hires her to help them. And then she calls on an old friend, a blacksmith, Ronan, who actually turns out to be one of the ex-royal guard, but he was disgraced, and he was banished from his kingdom, so he had to move to someplace else. And he's just like now a humble blacksmith. But she builds her team up, and they go after a big baddie. And it's exciting. And the second issue focuses on the big baddie, the king of the werewolves, Vanagonder. Wants to stop her because she's interfering with her plans. And then in issue 2, we meet Cersei. That's her, the queen that you're scrolling by right now, the queen of the vampires. And she seems to be plotting some big war against the humans. That she wants to invade the kingdom and take over. And she's joined up with the werewolves to do it. And Akane is my main character, the Little Red Riding Hood girl. Akane stumbles upon this plot and decides she's going to use her team to stop it before they can amass a large army. But it turns out it was all a ploy. She was set up by Cersei, the Vampire Queen, because the Vampire Queen wants her for something specific, and I can't give that away. So it's a plot for them to capture Akane, and that's where you're seeing right there is that page where Vanagonder, the Werewolf King, and the Vampire Queen are teaming up, and they have what they want. And the rest of the issue is her friends going off to save her, and as the plot thickens. And issue 3 is Vaughn is already starting on it. Nice. And he's actually drawing the pages now, and I finished writing all 5 volumes of 5 issues of Daughter of Wolves, so they just need to be drawn. It's all written. So the first, and then once it's all complete, if we can do issues 3, 4, and 5 and finish the story, I will put it into a hardcover and do a full trade paperback of that. So yeah.
Nice. Cool. Yeah, man, it looks really good. I mean, this thing looks awesome. There's Alicia.
Yeah.
So who's the artist on Alicia? You were telling me a little bit about that artist.
Yeah, it's Christopher Awayan. He's also Philippine. But I just love, he has a very animated feel to the art, and he just captures, like for issue 1, my favorite page is just the bounty hunters walking down out of the back of the ship, and saying like, fan out, I want Alicia Carter alive. It gives it some gravitas, and then but the art is just like really animated feeling, and he's really good at facial expressions, and it just makes it fun.
No, that's awesome. Cool. So got some stretch goals here. What were you gonna say?
The artist on not the artist that Chris is the artist on this, but the colorist is Mirza Wirawan. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Sorry, Mirza, if I mispronounced your name. But yeah, he's also done some professional coloring work for. He did the X Force Annual.
Okay.
And he did the Cable Deadpool, I believe, book that just came out with Marvel. So he's done some pro work as well.
Oh, cool. Well, he's working with he's doing your work, so that's pro work.
Yeah. I mean, publishing is publishing, whether you're big or small. What I try to do though is I try to compete in terms of quality with the big publishers, because I don't want to. There's a lot of books that get put out on Kickstarter for indie comics, and I love indie comics a lot, and I love to support other indie creators. But there is an avalanche that you'll get buried under if you don't like stand out somehow. And the way that I'm trying to stand out is by hiring the best people that I can, like surrounding myself with the best people and I think it's working. So
Yeah, I mean, listen, man, the work looks great. You're having excellent results, so that's really cool. Do you want me to play the video?
um, I don't. It's just no, actually.
It's what?
No, you don't need to play it. People can click on it if they want to watch it. I just make these videos really generically on my computer, and it's just text that's in pictures that we've already seen of the art of the book, and saying like what happens when a monster hunter meets her. It's just like whatever. You put the movie voice over it, but it's just telling you what's going on in terms of the plot to get you excited to buy it. But we'll leave it up as a treat for them if they want to watch that.
Gotcha. All right, no, that's cool. Let's go ahead and get that off of there. All right, cool. So I mean, yeah, man. I mean, the book looks awesome. I mean, my wife Daphne has already backed it, so we'll be getting it.
Well, thank you for backing it.
Yeah, I mean, she what's funny is she had suggested, she's like, oh, you should get Tristan on your show, and I was like, okay, I'll reach out. It's one of those things. It's weird because I know a lot of podcasters, they don't reach out to artists. Because they sometimes we do get sometimes I get inundated and people like, can I come on your show? It's like,
yeah,
but I'm of the mindset, I got to reach out. If you don't reach out, you're not gonna find new faces, new blood.
Yeah. So does Daphne does your wife draw all the books that you guys do? You do them together?
Well, there's 3 series between the two of us, right? So there's the Oswald Chronicles, which is my mouse right there. That is illustrated actually by Jade Gonzalez. That's her artwork there.
Okay.
Then I hire other people as well. This one's done by Dani Hadijawa.
Okay.
And then so that's that. And then we have a book called Tall Tales, which is this one. It's like an anthropomorphic fantasy sword and sorcery type deal. These are all in black and white.
Okay.
And she does really strong pen and ink work.
Okay.
Right? So that's the book we share together, right? And then she has her own book, which is called Ego Raven. And then that's the book she does on her. So she has hers, I have mine, and then we have ours.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's fun.
yeah. No, it is. It works out well. Because then, like I said, we have a book we share together that we've been doing for 20 years plus. Longer.
Good.
Yeah. I started self-publishing in 92, and that's how I met her.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've been at it for a minute. So
yeah. I keep getting people asking me if I'm going to go to cons this year, and I'm like, look, I just got the hard copies of the book. I don't think I have enough to sell yet. I might have to order more copies, and so I'm probably going to hold off on cons this year. But next year, I might start the con circuit and see if I can get into some conventions and start actually selling and meeting people and stuff. Because I'm just really new to this. Like, this is only my second year doing any comic book stuff at all. So.
No, man, it's good. You're off to a good start. Trust me, it's a good community. I mean, there's a lot of people who help you out. It's just one of those things. You just gotta have fun with it. You're enjoying it, and that's the most important part. You're making money at it, which is even better.
Yeah.
But if you don't enjoy it, it doesn't. I listen. You can make all the money in the world, but if you don't enjoy what you're doing, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned. Some people will disagree. It's like, well, I can have steak every night. I'm like, you can drive around a Ferrari too, but it's like, there's certain things that are hollow. So, but all right, cool. Tristan, we've been at this for a minute, right? We're almost done, but we're not there just yet. I got a bunch of goofy questions I'm going to ask you.
Sure.
Right? So before we get to that though, please let everybody know where they can find you and your work.
All right. Well, yes. Right now on Kickstarter, you can get Daughter of Wolves 2. Just type in Daughter of Wolves. I also have a web page with my comic book imprint name. So it's www.regolithcomics.com. And regolith is it's the moon dust, right? So you spell it how it sounds, regolith. And Then I also have tristanvick.com, which showcases my other like writing as well, my prose stuff as well, my science fiction series, my zombie series, all that stuff. So yeah, and those are the two main places you can find me on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of them basically, Tumblr, like all the main ones, and usually under Tristan Vick or if you just type in my name, it'll probably something will pop up. So yeah, that's about the gist of it.
All right, cool. Nice. Okay. And I also put a link in the show notes, so you can just click on that link and it'll take you right to his campaign. So that'd be cool. Go buy the book. It's looking awesome, and it's going to continue to look awesome. So let's move onto these goofy questions. Here's one for you. If you had the choice of any artist, living or dead, who you can commission to do a cover for you, don't worry about the budget, who would you get?
Mark Schultz.
Mark Schultz. Okay.
So Mark Schultz,
Xenozoic Tales?
Yeah, and he did all the Conan art in the illustrated Conan books and the Carbon series, and yeah, I love he has like this classic 1930s pulpy fantasy vibe. Like I have some of his artwork right up here. I can show you. This is a cardstock I have of his, and just like and here's another one, like dinosaurs and babes, space girls, that type of thing. But I love that rendering style, that classic black and white. And yeah, I would hire him. But I already got my dream artist, Karen Darbo. I got her on, you can see her popping up on my cover art choices. And she's an Italian artist that I've loved for years. And she just recently started getting work at Marvel. And she did, before this, she did covers for the alternate covers for the Walking Dead books. So like they came out with the hardcover trade paperbacks, and then they did a reprint of all the issues. And when they colorized all the black and whites, and her covers are gracing the color alternate covers for Walking Dead. And I just love her style. So I reached out to her and I was lucky to get her. And we're doing more covers together. So that's the other one.
Nice. Okay, cool. Well, listen, Mark Schultz, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Your second artist, I'm not familiar with her work, but I'm sure she's fantastic. So, all right. So here's another one for you. Let's say you got the call up to the big companies, right? And you got the golden ticket, and they say, Tristan, pick any book, any IP, doesn't matter what company, Image, Marvel, DC, Titan, whatever. What IP would you want to work on?
Fantastic Four.
Okay. Why Fantastic Four?
Because I have a story in mind.
Fair enough.
I've had a story for like 10 years, and basically I'm going to team up some unpopular characters. The Fantastic Four are going to go missing, and then the Baxter Protocol is going to engage, and it's going to the Baxter Tower, their artificial intelligent computer, is going to assemble a new team to find the Fantastic Four, and I want to write it as a comedy, and so yeah, I want to team up Power Girl, Thor, Howard the Duck, and She-Hulk.
Nice.
And they're going to be the new Unfantastic Four.
Now, Power Girl's from DC though.
Oh, not Power Girl. Who do I want to say? Who's the Wonder Woman ripoff?
Oh, is it Titania?
No.
She was part of the Squadron Supreme, right?
That's right. What's her face? Let's see if I can find her really quick.
Yeah.
It's not Power Girl, but it's Power Princess.
Okay, there you go. Yeah.
I just misspoke. But yeah, Power Princess. So yeah, I wanted to team her up I mean, Thor. Before the Marvel movies came out, Thor wasn't really an A-list character. He was more of a B. Even Iron Man was more of a B character.
Yeah, all of the Avengers were.
Yeah, yeah. And so but I wanted to go a little bit more silly with it, and I want to do it as an action comedy because I'm good at writing action and comedy.
Cool.
So yeah, that's my Fantastic Four. My pitch is that you got to find a bumbling team of goofballs who have to figure out their stuff while they're trying to rescue the real superheroes, right?
Right.
That's my pitch. That's my pitch to Marvel if they want it.
Nice. Okay, cool. Hopefully CB Samolsky is listening and the Tom Brevoort, bring you in.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Nice. I like it. All right, now I have some comparatives for you. I'll softball you with the first couple and then we'll work our way in, all right?
Okay.
Captain America or Batman?
Batman.
Okay. Oh, and some of these will come up.
I mean, I like Captain America. Yeah, I like Captain America, but Batman's just too iconic and too great of a rogues villain to pass up. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Godzilla or Gamera?
That's much harder. I would just, I'm gonna say Godzilla just because my two little boys, my two Japanese sons, love the new Godzilla movies, and we just had a blast watching them together. And just because we bonded over those silly new movies, I'm gonna have to go with Godzilla.
Okay, cool. They like the Kong Axe Excalibur.
Yep.
It's hilarious.
They're silly movies, but they're so fun, and my kids just adore them. You don't even have to understand what's going on because, frankly, there's not really any plot. You just watch a bunch of action scenes streamed together. But yeah, they just have such a blast, and it was so fun to watch it with them and have them be so excited. I think it's the first movie I ever showed my children that they wanted to watch again immediately after they saw it. I'm like, that movie's like 2.5 hours long, dude. No.
No, I got you. Doctor Strange or John Constantine?
For me, it'd be Doctor Strange. I like them both again, but I think I would just have more fun writing Strange. But Dr. Fate over Doctor Strange. Again, we're jumping to DC, but that's...
No, that's good.
Dr. Fate, Doctor Strange, John Cassidy.
Secret Wars or Crisis on Infinite Earths?
I'm gonna go Secret Wars.
Okay.
Again, another hard choice, but but more like, I don't know. I like things that can be woven into hard sci-fi more. Any story, like, that's what I've always liked. I prefer Marvel over DC in many areas.
Right.
I also prefer DC in many areas over Marvel. But one of the things I think Marvel gets right a lot of the time is how they blend their version of fantasy and superhero stuff into more real world settings, which I really like. And DC is more of like a pantheon of gods. It's more mythological. It's grander in scope. But yeah, I think for that, I would have to go with Marvel.
Okay. Andrew Wilson says, Tristan, I love Alicia Carter and DOW. I have pledged in the past and current campaigns. There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
DOW is just Daughter of Wolves, and I just say Dow.
You just say Dow. There you go. Nice. Lord of the Rings or Star Wars?
Oh, sorry. Say that again. I was talking over you.
Lord of the Rings or Star Wars?
Oh, why are you doing this to me? Star Wars. Just, I haven't ever read the Lord of the Rings, the books themselves, so I only have the movies to go by. And I adore the movies, but I'd like to read the books before I made a final verdict. But I grew up with Star Wars, so like, I remember my parents taking me in 1982 to it would have been a rerun of Empire Strikes Back before the premiere of Return of the Jedi. And I remember my parents took me to Empire, and then the following weekend we went to Return of the Jedi, and that has stayed with me ever since. So yeah, it's just part of my childhood. And Lord of the Rings wasn't a part. Like I didn't even get introduced to it till college. So.
Right. All right, I got you. Buffy or Supernatural?
Supernatural, because it's just so dumb. Buffy is actually smart, but there's just so much lore in Supernatural that they created over what 14 long seasons. And I like the Kripke arc. The first 5 seasons are very tight. Buffy's also really good. But I was just a little too old. Buffy came out I don't remember when. I was, but it
90. It was in the 90s, but it was like what 90, 95?
Yeah, mid to late 90s. But I was like I didn't have TV in high school, and so when I graduated and went to college, that's the first time I had TV. So there's just that gap where I missed the pop culture phenomenon of it. And I actually had to come back to it and watch it as like a binge watcher on Netflix. So yeah, I didn't get absorbed by it like most people, but Supernatural came out right when I was leaving to Japan, and I just kind of got addicted to it right before I left. And so I'd have to go. And also Supernatural is just much more wacky. I mean, Buffy had some good comical episodes, but Supernatural could just do anything, and they could break their own rules, and it didn't matter. It was like as in terms of writing, it would have been, in my opinion, one of the funnest shows to write, just because you could do anything you wanted.
True.
Even meet Scooby-Doo.
Yes, they did meet Scooby-Doo. Yes, that was fun. The only thing I think, well, it wasn't even Buffy. It was when it was an Angel. He had his own series, and they turned him into a Muppet.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers?
Jason all the way.
Okay.
Mike, maybe the first 2 Halloweens are good. The rest of the movies, in my opinion, are abysmal, just garbage. But yes, the first 2 are more artistic and stuff. But Jason is just such it's like he became a cliche of himself, and they just kept going with it. And I mean, he was already copying. I think just copying Halloween and the success that slasher films had come before, and they just reinvented the genre by making it over the top. The violence was over the top, the character was over the top, and he can't be killed, and it's so fun, and it just gets weirder and weirder with that character, and yet the stories are much simpler and much more imaginative, I would say, than the Michael Myers stories. The dialogue doesn't need to be anything, because it's not about anything other than this guy killing a bunch of people. But then they do fun stuff with it. Like the Freddy versus Jason movie is excellent. It's got a really good plot. And the Jason X, when he goes into space, it's just a stupid parody of itself. And it's just hilarious if you watch the movies. And then like the what is it? The 4th and 6th films in that series are perfect slasher films, and I don't think anything comes close to them in terms of Jason 4 and Jason 6. Like those are the ones you want to recommend to people who haven't ever seen it. And I like the fact that there's 3 movies that are the final movies in the franchise. It's just they keep going with them, and it's fun. I love Jason, and I dressed up as him for Halloween last year. So
very cool, nice. Yeah. Akira or Nausicaa?
Nausicaa.
That's interesting. Okay, you're the first person I've ever had on who could answer that question and seen both movies.
Oh, I'm going movies. Yeah, I was thinking of the comics, but
no, that's true too. Okay, yeah, because I've read both of those as well. All right.
Yeah. So, I have a warm spot in my heart for anything Hayao Miyazaki, and his films are amazing. His films are like the literature of modern cinema, the literature of cinema. But watching his animated features feels more like reading a novel than anything else. And in fact, like when I read Howl's Moving Castle back in college, I was like, I don't like this modern day stuff. Why does Hal keep going through the magic door into present time and watching soccer games and doing laundry and stuff? Like, I don't care about that. It just doesn't make any sense. Why does she? It does make sense in the story, but I was like, it's not really necessary for the story overall. And then when Miyazaki made the animated Howl's Moving Castle, he took all the modern day stuff out. And I was like, yes, somebody who knows how to edit a story and trim it down to its basic constituent parts and have them all working. And he's such a great filmmaker and storyteller that he knew that other stuff was superfluous and really didn't benefit the plot. And he could actually take one character, mash them in, or take two separate characters, mash them into one, and then get rid of that entire subplot that doesn't really benefit anything. And I was just like, yes, man. And Nausicaa, Valley of the Winds is like the comic book is a little bit more of an editorial on climate change and there's a lot more of his message, environmental message in the comic. The movie has almost none of it. I mean, there is the consequences of
the consequences. There's that one scene where she's in the basement.
Yeah, but the movie is simplified in a way that I really admire how he edited his own story down. He took the constituent parts of this like 8-volume, or no, wait, it's six volumes, I think.
I have I think mine only. I have a box set that's only 2 books, but it's the whole story, but it's in 2 books.
Okay, so you got like the thick compendiums. Yeah, when they came out, they're like 120 pages. I think there's 5 or 6 of them. I don't remember.
Yeah,
but it's a much longer story than the movie. And again, he just cuts out all the fluff and gets to the point with the movie, and it's just wonderful. And Akira also does that. I mean, the movie does that really well. And I have the screenplay of Akira, and it's just or the storyboard, the screenplay storyboarded, and
nice.
you can see how they simplified the script from the comic book, which is just a giant compendium of. It's just I think there's 6 volumes in that, or 7. I don't remember.
I think it's 6.
Yeah, it's 6, but they're like 300 pages each. It's a big story, and again, I think it's too much. Like reading it now, like you read his other books like Domu, for example, and it's much more condensed, and things happen in a better, and the pacing's better. When you stretch too much out over, I know he's going for that epic feel, but maybe too much. It was like, yeah. So I would go. But the both movies, in terms of movies, the animation styles are so different. You have like this hyper realistic backgrounds with animation that's just so well done, and then the other ones are more of the Ghibli films are more of a classic vibe and more simplified. The art style is simplified, the stories are simplified, but I think that's what gives them their longevity and their popularity and their appeal, is because the Ghibli films appeal to everyone, no matter what story it is, because everybody can relate to the character driven stories there. But like Akira has a lot more layers going on in terms of plot and subplot and the nuance and everything that's happening. So it's a much denser film to take apart. But yeah, I love them both, but I'd go with Nausicaa.
All right, cool. All right, we've done a few of these. I'm gonna ask you a couple more, and then we'll wrap it up. This is. I'll ask you this one. I never asked anyone this one. Naruto or One Piece?
One Piece.
Okay.
Art would be Naruto. Story would be One Piece. And just One Piece. I read it. I read all the way to through the Skypiea storyline in its original Japanese. And so there's just something about that story that it's very epic. It's very good. It's well paced. It's comical. The Aldebaran story is good. The a lot of the stories after it, he starts One Piece starts to get too, again, it gets too grand, too many stories, too many characters going on. But I just love the imagination behind it, and he never loses the comedic beats. He never loses the emotional punch. He always has something that pulls you into it, even though it's going on and on and on. Naruto is much shorter and sweeter story. It's a self-contained story. He finished it. It's the art is amazing in Naruto. I love the art, but Naruto never really made me feel much other than, oh yeah, get him, like when they just keep leveling up and then they keep fighting bad guys that are just assholes basically. But One Piece has a lot more character dynamics going on. Okay. You have Naruto and his friends, and a little bit of stuff happens, but they never truly go off in different directions and learn about all the different characters. It's always, because it's a much shorter series, it's always just focused around Naruto and his goals, his aspirations, and the things that are happening to him and how he's related to all this other stuff. But One Piece, it's like kind of like Avengers, but or more like X-Men. I would say it's more like X-Men in terms of the characters. There become too many of them. It's an ensemble cast that just keeps growing and growing. And so they break off and they all go on different adventures, and you learn about all the characters individually on these adventures. And then the big baddie shows up, and then they all have to get back to race to save somebody or help each other. And they come back together, and then the whole team. It's more similar into how the X-Men books are done, where you have multiple teams and multiple storylines going, and then they might have a big House of M type thing that brings everybody into the fray. And so One Piece is set up more like that. And so I really enjoy that style with One Piece more than Naruto. But Naruto's also fun.
All right, cool. All right, we'll wrap it up on this. H.P. Lovecraft or Poe?
Well, H.P. Lovecraft was influenced by Poe. That was like his archetype. I like sci-fi and I like fantasy, and I enjoy purple prose. So I would probably say H.P. Lovecraft. Poe's writing is really fun. His short stories are fun. His poems are fun. But when it comes to like the Cthulhu pantheon and the different the cosmic horror aspect of H.P. Lovecraft, I think doing a slow burn mythology that he created over the span of like 39 years of writing. It's just, to me, it's kind of an amazing project to think about. Nothing against Poe, genius writer, brilliant American poet, but I would say H.P. Lovecraft just had a imagination, and he had a unique take on things, and every character spirals into insanity, and it's a breath of fresh air to have something different and so imaginative come out of a writer. Yeah, but I would say Robert E. Howard over H.P. Lovecraft, because I don't think there's a better prose writer in American history.
Okay, fair enough.
In my opinion, maybe Cormac McCarthy. He wrote The Road and what are his other books?
Isn't he American Psycho? Or is that the other guy?
No, he's not American Psycho.
No, yeah, that's the other guy. I'm sorry. I get him confused.
But I like Cormac McCarthy's prose style as well. They have this very, Robert E. Howard and him have this very great way of explaining things in metaphorical and poetic ways that as a writer you always achieve to describe the world in a way that other people can enjoy and envision it. And in my opinion, those are the two best prose writers.
Okay. Fair enough. Sounds good. Well, Tristan, we're at this for a while. We made it to the end. So thank you very much for coming here and sharing this time with me. So please, Tristan, one more time, please let everyone know where they can find you and your work, sir.
Okay. So yeah, www.regolithcomics.com. That's my comic imprint, and that's where all the comic book stuff like Daughter of Wolves, Alicia Carter, and my upcoming projects will be. showcased, and also my personal author webpage, tristanvick.com. You can find all my prose writing there, and all over social media. So just Google me.
All right, nice. All right, cool. Tristan, this was awesome. Thank you so much. My name is JD Calderon. I'm here doing these shows once in a while, and I'm usually on Sundays, not this Sunday because I have an engagement that I have to go to. So, but the following Sunday, I'll have a show, and we'll have a regular ensemble cast, and we talk all kinds of stuff. So at some point, Tristan, I'll invite you on. We can all talk comics, because that's what we do. We discuss comics.
All right. Well, thanks for having me.
Yes. Well, thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you, everybody, and I'll be talking to you all soon. Have a great night. Now, if I can find the button. There you go.